Hello, YouTube family. Welcome to our channel. This channel deals with the Fat Fire journey of a family. Our Fat Fire goal is $5 million US. So, how we came to this number? So, we want in retirement, based on the 4% rule, to come to a yearly income of $200,000 or 16,500 per month. That will align with our expected expenses, and we'll go through our expenses later on in this video and making sure how our alignment sits there. So a little bit about us. We are two working parents, mainly W-2 based income, with three young children, ages 4 till 8, two girls and one boy, and we live in a high cost of living area, which will explain some of our expenses. We plan on retiring in a high cost of living area, so our expenses should be aligned with that as well.
F.I.R.E deals with living in retirement in a different way during your FIRE journey, where we save money, and this is the point where we use our money. So this is how we plan our using our money in case everything goes according to plan and the economy is okay and we don't have to revert to alternative backup plans. So our top three expenses post-FIRE expected are kids, $36,000, rent, $30,000, and travel, $20,000. And I'll go into details on how I came with these numbers and what is our expected lifestyle is going to be like. So let's start with kids because they're the biggest drain on the resource. So we have three kids. Uh, our plan for each kid is saving 300,000 dedicated to their use cases. And based on the 4% rule, that gives us $12,000 a year per kid, which is more than enough uh, currently. The biggest expense, for example, in the public school system is summer camp. That's $2,500 per kid for the summer. We're not planning on using it. We plan on traveling during the summers. But this is just to give a ballpark of what happens, like the biggest expense of a child. Um, and college, once they reach that age, we save for college for them now to some extent. But basically, those $300,000 are earmarked for them. They can choose it for a higher education, start a business, or any worthwhile expenditure. Rent. Rent is an expected high expense. We don't plan on owning post-fire. We plan on traveling and they're living in different communities around the world. But this gives us $3,000 a year, which is $2,500 a month, which in most US cities is totally doable unless you're in the hardcore downtown expensive core. And of course, globally, much more options on how to spend that budget. So this is the end of the market for us, and this is the Fat Fire lifestyle where we want to be comfortable in retirement. Travel, $20,000 allotted for a family with two adults and three kids. It might seem like not a large amount, but this is how we break it down. So we plan mainly on traveling during the summer, so basically about 60 nights or 2 months out of the year outside our home for major trips and smaller trips along the way, of course, as needed. So we looked at Airbnb in the most expensive cities in the world, London, Paris, Rome, things of that nature. We saw that once we go to the monthly Airbnb type bracket, the cost is significantly less than what we see on like weekend or week-long trips. And we saw a bunch of cool apartments we would love to live in for 2 months out of the year. And they cost about $100 a night. Again, this is in the most expensive cities. If when we go to Thailand or Eastern Europe or uh, Mexico, things are going to be much cheaper. And rental car, it's $40 a day across the world, pretty much globally. That does include insurance and all of that, so uh, pretty cheap, comparable. We have looked at buying cars in destinations. For example, when you plan on traveling in Australia, we'll probably purchase a car there and resell it at the end of the trip. Um, but it's really, this is like the highest end needed for rental cars. And flights, it's expensive. Like I mentioned, 5 people traveling. This is the most expensive thing, and we will plan on starting our trips out outside the peak period and traveling into the peak period and after it. So $5,000, that's mainly basically $1,000 per person per flight. Most destinations with a 12-hour reach can be done with this. For example, we went and traveled New Zealand a couple of years ago, and it cost us $1,000 per person per flight, and that was in the peak travel destination. So I mentioned the top expensive, but there are of course a mirage of other expenses. I'll name a few. Healthcare, $12,000. That's in line with what we pay right now. We don't expect to pay a lot of healthcare premiums. I'll go into a separate video on how we plan on dealing with the healthcare related expenses. Insurance, this is not healthcare insurance. This is car and home and rental type insurance. Um, yeah, it's pretty standard. It's probably gonna raise a bit more when the kids are driving age, but we will calculate there, and there are enough budget areas we can move around if needed. Food, this is in line with what we spend yearly on food currently. We do expect it to decrease as we go into more of a meat alternative lifestyle, where the most of our expenses will be fresh fruit and vegetables. Entertainment and shopping, this is in line with what we currently spend in a pre-COVID lifestyle, and we expect it to be maintained as much. There's a lot of other expenses as well. That brings our total expenses, uh, expected expenses to about $170,000 pre-tax. Sorry, post-tax. We There's a separate video I'll put up on how we plan on budgeting for taxes. But this gives us a good cushion for different um, expenses. So, based on the FAT FIRE budget on a 4% rate of return, not return, sorry, 4% rate of extraction, we plan on a conservative budget of 4.2 million, but this is really living on the edge in the terms of the 4% rule. If you look at the community, 4%, sometimes people treat it as 4.5%, sometimes people treat it as 3.5%. We plan on this rule of thumb as the 4%, but we want to also look at how it looks in 3.5%. So if we go with the 3.5%, we need 4.8 million, which is in line with our 5 million goal of 4% extract rate. That gives us a flexibility on how we can move the budget from place to place in case we need it. We do expect our lifestyle to change a bit as we age and our children age. But this is a starting point on how we plan on living our fat file life when we retire later in about 4 years when we're 43.